Whether you're sewing straight, free motion quilting, or doing decorative stitches, there's times where you do need to adjust your tension just a little bit to get the best results. So for example, when I switched over to a variegated thread in my needle, I did not put the same thread in my bobbin. Nobody's going to see the back side, so I'm not going to waste my variegated thread down below. So now I have two different weights of thread. That's one time to adjust your tension. The other time, so many people blame their tension for things, and you'd be surprised that tension is the last thing you truly want to change, unless, like for the example I already gave you, you have two different weights in the machine, a thicker thread and a thinner thread, or vice versa. So keep in mind that before you just jump to needing to adjust your tension, do you have the right needle in? Have you cleaned out underneath your throat plate lately? Remember, we have the videos right up here where you can click over on how to clean the machine. And, needles make a big difference, so check out our needle videos also, where you can truly make sure you have the right needle for the thread you choose and the fabric you choose. So how do we adjust our tension anyway? So normal is about 4. You have a range between 3, 4, and 5. Has a little line up here that will kind of give you a place to start. So 4 is where you want to leave it. And as you sew, if you find yourself with threads pulling to the back side, okay? So as you, think of it as a tug-of-war team, the top thread and the bobbin thread. So if the bobbin thread is too tight, what we might need to do is, and it's pulling your top thread back here, and it's showing you, like even here, we were doing some free motion quilting. By the way, you can click up into that video and see how to do free motion quilting and what foot you need. But see how those stitches, I can see the top thread back here. So what I needed to do is I needed to make the top tension tighter, so it'll pull it closer to the back of the fabric and not so showing of that top thread. So tighter means a higher number. Now here's another trick. When you're talking tension, if it's at 4, I'm going to have you move it all the way up to 5, maybe even 5.5. If you move it just a little bit, like barely any change, you're not going to see any change on your fabric. Go a whole number, or a whole number and a half. So 1.5 changes to really see, number one, are you going the right direction? It will either get super worse or it's going to get better. Now, I was all the way up to 6 when free motion quilting. Now, you got to remember, with a free motion technique, the foot is hopping, so it's not the same as just a regular presser foot that's holding your fabric down. So usually with free motion quilting, you do need to adjust your tension. Depends on your threads that you have in your machine, will depend on which way you need to go. So on the other way, sometimes when we sew decorative stitches, so I'm going to put it back to 4. Sometimes when you sew decorative stitches, you might see some of your bobbin thread on top, which definitely is not what you want. So at that point, now the top tension or the top thread is too tight. So you want to relax it. So you want to go to a smaller number. So usually I'll go down to say 2.5 or 3. So number 1, I can see the change. And look, in my bobbin is the pink thread. And I do see and want to see more of the color thread, the variegated thread back here. That way I don't see any pink, that really bright dark pink on the top. That's when I know I have really good looking tension, because everything pulls to the back side on purpose. Now, of course, if you change your tension, make sure you put it back to 4 when you sew a straight stitch, and you put normal thread in your, or matching thread in your needle and your bobbin. But just remember, tension is usually not the biggest culprit, and hopefully you get more comfortable with it. And if you don't remember which way to turn your tension dial, if you go the wrong way, it will just produce a worse result. So then you know to go the other way. All right, so don't forget, clean your machine, proper needles, and change your needles before you start messing with the tension when you think it might be a tension problem. Now, decorative stitches, free motion quilting, that might warranty a tension change.